Seahawk Podcast.
Welcome to the Military Seahawk Podcast. I'm Melanie Nelson, the Military Student Services Specialist at UNCW, and today I'm interviewing Chris Santos. Chris is a student veteran and a senior at UNCW who is planning to go on to med school after graduating this fall. On today's interview, we'll find out more about his time in the military and his experiences at UNCW. Hey, Chris.
Hey, everyone.
Thanks for being on the show. We are going to get right into it. When you were a kid, like maybe age 6 or 7, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, man. It would change probably from like every few months or so, ranging from like a chef to a painter or something to architect. One time I think I wanted to be a maritime lawyer.
You wanted to be a maritime lawyer. And what age was this?
This was probably 12 or 13.
Interestingly, all of those things are things that you could end up doing in the Navy. I'm not sure if you saw that coming as you were a little kid.
No. My mom dressed me up as a little sailor when I was a baby, so it was all foreshadowing.
This is all foreshadowing for what you ended up doing in the military. You had kind of an unconventional childhood when you were a little kid, right?
Yep.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so my parents actually immigrated to the United States from the Caribbean, and their first language was not English. So my first language was not English as well. And I didn't actually learn English till I was around like 5 to 6. And other than that, I always spoke Spanish. So that kind of made starting school here in the States kind of weird. But picked up English pretty quick after that. So it all worked out.
It all worked out. My first deployment in the Navy, we actually went and did some island hopping down in the Caribbean.
Nice.
It was called Theater Security Cooperation. People never believed me when I'm like, yep, this was my deployment. We used to just hop into different islands and we would throw up a tent out on the flight deck and have a party and invite all the local dignitaries. It was good times. So you had a childhood where you kind of moved around a lot. You sort of had all these inklings of things you might like to do.
Yeah.
When you got into high school, how did your career aspirations change?
So from high school, it stayed on a month or so change of what I wanted to do. And by the time I hit 17, pretty much all I knew is that I for sure had no idea what I wanted to do. And wasn't even really sure about college either after senior year. So I only ended up doing about a semester and a half when I did graduate high school.
So you weren't quite sure what you wanted to be when you grew up, which is pretty common. I was the same way when I was in high school. So going into the Navy made a lot of sense for me. But at the time you were like, well, I'll give college a try and kind of see how things go.
Yep.
What were you studying? Or did you kind of go in undeclared?
I went in undeclared, and I went to Daytona State. And then from there, didn't really go to school much there.
Shocking. Another beach school.
Exactly. It's too much to do outside of school there.
Yeah. So how did that lead into your decision to go into the military?
So after that, I got a job and learned that getting paid minimum wage wasn't really that nice. Then I got another job, and I learned that I did not like having a desk job. And then from there, I figured I'd join the military just because I might as well do something productive, gets me out of an office, and most important, gets me out of school for a little while until I figured things out. Joke was on me because I ended up entering a 2-year pipeline shortly after I joined the military. That was nothing but schools.
Yeah, so the training pipeline ended up being school after school after school, classroom experience after classroom experience.
Yes.
The very thing you were trying to escape. Go
Yes.
figure. So which branch did you end up going into?
So I joined the Navy, become a sailor.
That's what we call ourselves, sailors. No matter what you end up doing, we can call ourselves a sailor.
And I ended up becoming a corpsman. But I originally started off in the Navy with a contract to try and become a Navy diver. Although after a short bit of time, learned that what my recruiter had exactly told me about the job wasn't really consistent with what the real job was. So my chiefs were able to switch me over to corpsman. That aligned more with the things I was hoping to do and get out of the military. And then I got sent to Texas.
And what's in Texas?
And Texas is Corps School. And there you pretty much get to hang out with the Army and the Air Force, and we all learned how to be basic EMTs there, essentially.
Yeah. So, join the Navy on a contract to become a diver. What was it specifically about being a diver that didn't appeal to you?
So, it was the fact that I also wanted to go and jump out of planes, and I did eventually want to end up going and learning some type of trauma medicine, and those weren't necessarily things that true Navy divers did.
Okay, when did the trauma medicine come into your career plan?
It came in, I want to say, in boot camp. They were teaching us basic medical things that everyone learns in boot camp, and I was like, oh wow, this is really important. I'd really like to learn more about this. And then that's where a little match lit up, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger ever since.
That's amazing. I don't know that I've heard too many people say, oh yeah, my inspiration came from boot camp. Most people are like, I just wanted to get done with boot camp. That's pretty cool. So you got into the military, you were able to switch out of the diving career and into the corpsman, and then you did pretty well in Corps School.
Yeah, I passed it, so that was nice.
You were now able to do the basics.
Yes.
And what happened next?
Then from there, I got selected to enter the reconnaissance corpsman pipeline, and I got sent out to California for field medical training. And then from there, I got sent to the basic reconnaissance course. And then I hung out in the bushes and hills in San Clemente, Camp Pendleton for a few months. And then from there, got sent to Panama City to do the combat dive school and the dive medicine portion. So that was fun. And then from there, I got sent to Fort Bragg for the Special Operations Medical course. And then there, I actually hit a hitch in the road and didn't complete the full training. But somewhere along the road there, some people high up must have liked me, and they kept me within a community, and then they sent me to good old Camp Lejeune to 2nd Marine Division with 2nd Recon.
I mean, at this point, you had racked up a fairly impressive resume with all these schools. And by the way, I got to blow up San Clemente a little bit when I was at Gunfire Liaison School. So San Clemente is good times. So you spent some time with the Army at Fort Bragg.
Yes, about a year and some change there.
Pleasant town.
Yes, I love it.
And then you came over to Camp Lejeune,
Yep.
a.k.a. Camp Swampy.
Yes.
And you were assigned to, you said, 2nd Mardiv.
Yes.
And what was your daily life like then?
So there, it was really a crapshoot. It depended. Some days we'd go in, and if there wasn't any training going on, it'd just be in the BAS, getting medical paperwork done, making sure everyone is medically ready and fit for full duty. But on the flip side, there'd be days where we would be in the field for about 2 months. We could go diving. We'd end up having jumping operations. I mean, just everything that a reconnaissance unit would end up doing. So there's a lot of variation, and it was kind of nonstop.
But you liked that, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved my job in the military. It was great.
That's what you were looking for. You wanted something that wasn't all the paperwork and stuck behind a desk in the office.
Yes.
But wasn't maybe all going out and doing the same thing all the time.
A little bit of both worlds there.
You needed some texture to your days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you loved your job. What was your favorite part about your job?
My favorite part was actually the medical side of it. And that's really where I started thinking more, and then started thinking more about school and everything. As much as the tactical side of it was really cool, I just got a better feeling at the end of the day from helping people and then seeing an actual physical improvement in people's lives once you help them out. And I thought that was sweet.
Yeah, running around and doing the recon and all the training exercises, being out of the range or whatever, that it's fun, but at a certain point, like, your brain was tending more toward, but what's actually going on behind the scenes? Like, I'd rather send my energy that way.
Yeah, I know there's some guys who 100% absolutely love that and will never leave that area. And that's awesome. It's just for me, I ended up liking the medical side of it just a little more.
Yeah, it takes all kinds. Was there anything you didn't like about your job? Like, you liked the recon stuff, okay. But was there anything you really sort of were like, ugh, not this again?
How to word this?
Oh boy, here we go. Is this going to be a vocabulary lesson? Do we need people to put on earmuffs?
No.
No.
I loved my time in the military, but what I didn't like was that sometimes it felt as if we were being treated like children. They were sending mixed signals. It'd be like, be a grown-up, think outside the box to complete the mission. But then you get in trouble if you're not doing everything verbatim to the T, exactly to how they want it over there on the main side of Camp Lejeune, for this case as an example. And then it's just weird, you know? Really kind of felt like we were being treated like little kids after a while. But it's understandable, because all it takes is one person to mess a good thing up.
We are the reason we can't have nice things, including the ability to do things the way we want to do them.
Yeah. So it's understandable, you know, they want to make sure they repeated everything and no one can say, oh, I didn't hear something, so this is why this happened. Everyone knows exactly what's expected.
Yeah, there are some benefits to that. It sort of like takes the pressure off. It's like, well, if I didn't get it the first time, they're going to come back and tell me again. So, but also you're like, but I want this advanced medical knowledge, and I can't get that if I'm busily being constrained by all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and when he says main side at Camp Lejeune, he means the high-ups, the generals. That's where they hang out and make their decisions that trickle down to the operating units. So, and that is a frustration for a lot of people, this feeling that the military is kind of infantilizing. And then when you get out as a veteran, do you think that has an effect on how your transition went when you got out of the military?
A little bit, I'd say. It wasn't too bad though, but I would agree, yeah, a little bit.
There are some student veterans who are sort of like, but people would tell me things multiple times, and I didn't have to think too much about what I was going to do, and then they come to college and they're like, wait, what? Everything is happening so fast, and it takes an extra semester or two to catch on sometimes. Yeah,
at first it was, for as much as you hate it when you're in and you're like, I can, figure things out on my own, or I don't need to be told exactly how to do stuff every time. It's kind of weird not having someone being like, hey, have you done X, Y, and Z? Is this ready? Like, you really got to self-start yourself, and it's kind of, at first it's kind of weird being all alone once you get out.
Alone and unafraid, outstanding in my field. Yep. That's a thing. So you had to think about this one a little bit, you told me, but what was the coolest thing you ever did in the military?
So the coolest thing that I ever did in the military, I would have to say, is going on deployments for myself. Even though they were short ones, I think that was really cool, going down to another country and teaching their service members how to, say, enter a house and clear that entire house and ensure that there's no threat in there, or take care of a threat within there. So that was pretty neat. And then the other one would be jumping out of planes. So earlier, when I was saying the schools I ended up going to, I skipped Fort Benning in Georgia. So my orders always got messed up to go to jump school. So if there ever was a jump operation, I ended up having to get tagged on as a buddy jumping out with someone else. And even that itself, that was really sweet.
Yeah.
That was nice.
I thought your friends, like every time you were sent, they're like, seriously? We still have to buddy you? Like,
Yeah.
Really? This is a thing?
Yeah.
That's cool. So, yeah, you're actually the second veteran on this podcast who has mentioned that going to other countries and teaching them how to do things was the coolest thing.
Yeah, getting the chance to teach was pretty sweet because you can't really find that in the civilian side unless you're kind of a teacher.
Unless
really.
you have, like, the pedigree.
A teaching certification of some sort, yeah.
Yeah, unique opportunities in the military. So is there a habit or a mindset that you think you've carried from your time in the military into your life as a veteran?
I would say the mindset of not quitting and just perseverance, I would say, has carried over and in my mind been beneficial for school. Can kind of view everything and view it all as it's definitely possible. Everything is doable and possible, short of having some other issues. But yeah, I would say that it's the mindset of being able to finish everything and get it done appropriately.
Yeah. Being able to finish everything. Sometimes I like to tell people that this is college and everything is fixable,
Yeah.
right? Like, it is finishable and it is fixable. So even if, like, sometimes people will come to the Military Resource Lounge and they're like, no, I seriously messed everything up. And I'm like, it's just paperwork. We can fix this.
It's doable.
Yeah. Sometimes in the military, it felt like maybe it wasn't doable.
Yeah, and you'll learn in the military that it most certainly is.
Yeah. And then you figure it out and you make it happen anyway because perseverance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any military habits you were glad to drop when it was time to leave the military?
I would have liked to drop dipping, but I'm working on that right now. Other than that, not really. I'll still wake up early. It's super helpful, actually, at the end of the day for studying. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you engage in the act of dipping before you went into the military, or was that something that you picked up as a consequence of being around lots of military
A little
types?
bit before, and then a lot more during.
It's a pretty common habit.
Yeah.
So still working on kicking that one. Would like to drop this habit.
Yeah.
So there's a habit that I was glad to kick when I left, which is no longer wearing the blueberry uniforms. And I just found out there was a news piece published today with either Stars or Stripes and the Military Times that said they are phasing out, they are done with the blueberry uniforms. I have to ask, did you ever have the privilege and the extreme honor of wearing the blueberries?
Oh, I had the privilege. I wore them throughout core school. And
that was like 2 years of daily wear of blueberries.
Yeah, super glad to see those are gone. Never really understood the purpose of those if you're wearing them out in the ocean on a ship.
And you fell overboard. No one could find you. So we used to tell the Marines when they first phased those in, and I was working at Camp Lejeune, I would completely straight-faced, I'd be like, yep, so they have a special dye in them, so if you fall overboard, the blueberries like stain the water a certain color, so that way they can find you. And they full-on believed me. Like,
yeah, I've heard that one too. I may or may not have believed that one for a while. I don't know.
Yep, it was all my fault. It's great. Yeah, so glad to see those go. I believe we're calling the new ones, what was it, avocados?
Avocados or guacamoles is what I've heard them been called in the past.
The guacs.
Yep.
Gonna put my guacs on? Is that what we're gonna say these days? Man, I'm glad I'm not in the Navy anymore. Like, it's time to be moving on if we're gonna be dressing like guacamole. So, what are you studying now at UNCW?
Currently, I'm studying to get a degree in exercise science with a concentration in allied health, and then minoring in biology and chemistry as well.
That sounds kind of like my nightmare. So I'm glad, better you than me. So allied health, what is that exactly?
It is for students who would like to pursue, let's say, careers as a physical therapist, PAs, doctors, because that concentration really is the core collective of like all the classes that are required for grad school to get into dental school or medical school or PA school and so on.
Cool. Do you know we have a minor in yoga studies here?
I did not know that. I thought I heard about that, but it had never been confirmed.
I think it's fairly recent, but that's like, I always think of that with allied health, and I know they're not at all related, but I don't know.
I mean, yoga has been proven to lower the risk of certain diseases and lower pain for cancer patients. A lot of people knock it, but it's pretty good.
It's actually pretty good. And there are a lot of studies, particularly for the veteran population. Where
Yeah.
it's like, yes, go do your yoga and things will be okay.
Help out with some lower back pain, aches and bruises around the body, it'll help. I don't do it enough, but
Just add it to the list,
it should
right?
help.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I saw a very wicked gleam in your eye when I said, "Did you know we have a minor in this? You're going to be one of those perpetual students, aren't you?"
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
You're definitely going to be a perpetual student. It's fine. It's a good thing you're going to graduate school. Where do you think you'd like to go to med school?
Anywhere around Florida or San Diego up to San Francisco would be cool. Got family in both areas, so that'd be nice to be near some family now, especially since me and my wife are having a kid here soon.
Yes. Things are going to change
Yeah.
in a good way. So do you think the beach is going to distract you again?
No. If it was going to, it would have distracted me by now already.
Being at UNCW?
Yeah. That, second time around in college has been a lot better. Say that.
Yeah. Well, you were able to learn so much from that first experience, and then all the times you were in school since then, you're like, yep,
Yeah.
I get it. I know how to be in school. Except military schools are a little bit different from, they're a little more practical, I think, a little more focused.
They
than
are.
Being in a bachelor's program.
Yeah, that is true.
What's been your favorite class so far?
Here at UNCW?
Yeah.
Let's see. I think I would have to say, oh man, this is a tough one. I really don't know, as I really like a lot of all my classes.
So if somebody wanted to come here for the exercise science program, which course would be like, oh man, I can't wait for you to take the...
I want to say exercise prescription was pretty good. I liked that class a lot. Taught you how to prescribe exercise and how to tailor it to specific populations. And I found it to be real beneficial. A class was spot on, as are all the other classes too, I think.
Sure. I mean, it's okay. We can talk about it. Okay, so covered how you got into the military, what you did once you got into the military. We didn't really talk much about how you got out of the military and the timing of that decision.
So when I first enlisted, the plan tentatively was always just to do one enlistment, figure out my life, whatever I wanted, and then get out and do whatever it is I figured out I wanted to do in my life. But that didn't really happen until, I want to say, the last year of my enlistment. I initially was going to stay in for another enlistment and tried to move up a little bit. And then I started thinking about it more and more, where if I do another enlistment, then when I would be able to start school again. And the more I looked at it, it ended up looking like if I enlisted again, I'd end up being like in my late 30s when I officially finished school. And then I also got married, so that kind of put some more pressure on things to really figure it out. Which was cool, is my wife was fine with me being in the military still. And she supported either way I went. But I just started looking more at like the older guys, and I was like, man, they're broke.
Fair enough.
Yeah, their bodies are hurting them. And I figured, I mean, I don't really know if I want to do all that for a career. And also, you can only do so much as a corpsman until it's like, all right, now you need to be, a nurse or a PA or a doctor to start really doing more and possibly making some changes in the medical field. And then, so that pretty much convinced me that I wanted to get out. And I got out. I initially was planning on becoming a PA and then hopefully doing a reserves and still essentially doing the same job I had before. Then I blew out my hip.
Oh man, you became one of those broken people.
Yeah, I blew out my hip, so I'm glad I got out because that was a ticking time bomb. And it seems like I was going to end up getting out anyways. And then from there, I started thinking more about med school and actually becoming a doctor. Figured it's only 2 more extra years on top of PA school. It's like, might as well.
Yeah, might as well. So that's normally my last question is, where do you think you'll go from here? But I think we've covered that one pretty clearly. I will say it's refreshing to hear of somebody who's like, so I wound up doing this in the military and actually got a little spark of enjoyment out of it and kept learning about it and kept learning about it. And then the timing worked out.
Yeah.
Now you're like going to full on do this as a career and you're not going to be in your late whatever trying to start over in a new career.
Yeah, it's sweet how it worked out. I think being a corpsman really showed me how sweet medicine is, in my opinion. And I actually really like it a lot.
Yeah, I always picture that scene in Band of Brothers. Did you ever see the miniseries of like Doc's running around, like, I don't know. He was always one of my favorite characters, if you will.
Yeah, it always, in shows like that, it always seems like the Docs they're always in it. Wherever the action is, they're always there. And they have one foot in both worlds of everything.
Yeah.
Well,
that sounds kind of like you. One foot in multiple areas. That was a weird way of putting that. You know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Anyway, anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
School is definitely worth it. Whether you do it sooner or later, it'll definitely help. It's always going to be here, even if you do a full career. There's a bunch of guys around here who've done a full career and found themselves in school again. And they'll tell you themselves too. Definitely worth it. Definitely worth it.
UNCW in particular, definitely worth it.
Yes, the school is pretty sweet.
Especially after that, all the backbreaking labor and all of that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
All the jumping out of things. We don't have to do that anymore. All right, well, thank you for being with us. Again, this was Chris Santos, one of our student veterans, and we're looking forward to seeing how he impacts the medical field in his future career. Thanks for listening.